Hello there, and welcome to the channel. My name is Videosyncratic, and this is my series examining the various flags used in Europa Universalis IV and exploring their historical origins and context. Now, today's episode is a fairly special one, as it marks a milestone. After all has been said and done, I will finally have covered the flag of every single formable nation in the game. Before I get into today's episode, I will just give the customary notice. There should be a table of contents pinned in the comment section below to quickly jump to any flag you may be looking for in particular. In last week's episode, which took a look at the Indian subcontinent, I made an attempt at classifying each nation into one of three categories, based on what I believe it is intended to represent in-game. One of these categories was for nations which had previously existed, but had ceased to do so before the game starts. The first of this episode's countries is a clear-cut example of that, as it represents the Kingdom of Jerusalem, made clear by its three-letter tag of 𝘐𝑗. The Kingdom of Jerusalem is perhaps the most famous of all the Crusader states. However, it can be argued that there were actually two kingdoms of Jerusalem. The first was established after the First Crusade captured Jerusalem in 1099 and lasted until it was overran by Saladin in 1187. The Third Crusade was launched in response to this, and while it actually failed to recapture Jerusalem, a peace was eventually negotiated in 1192, which provided for the re-establishment of the kingdom, albeit now without actual control of Jerusalem, and thus having its capital in the port city of Acre instead. This greatly reduced kingdom would continue to survive until 1291, when it fell to the Mamluks, effectively bringing both the kingdom and the Age of Crusader states to a close. As you have likely noticed, the original Kingdom of Jerusalem fell over 150 years before the typical game of EU4 starts, and so it is the idea of this Crusader state that this tag represents. The flag of Jerusalem is easy to analyse. As a state established by knights, Jerusalem had a strongly pronounced heraldic tradition from its inception, and so its flag is taken directly from the coat of arms of the kingdom. This displays a gold cross potent, that is, a cross with 4 crossbars, surrounded by 4 plain crosslets on a field of silver. Moving on, the next 5 tags all represent nations which were historically predominantly Muslim, and as such share a number of features in common. Next on our list is the flag of Arabia. Now, I am not entirely certain what Arabia is intended to represent. Thankfully, what I am certain of is the origin of the in-game Arabian flag. It has been adapted from the emblem of the Arab League, the regional cooperation organisation originally established in 1945. The most notable difference is the replacement of the text. In the original emblem, the stylised Arabic was simply the name of the organisation. In the EU4 version, this has been replaced by the takbir, a very common Islamic expression that can be approximately translated as "God is greater." The flag used by Hijaz, one of many nations which can form Arabia, also features the takbir. This emblem also features a crescent with upturned points. The crescent has an association with Islam, especially in the West, but this is a surprisingly modern interpretation, and one which is actually quite contentious. There are a few theories on how the crescent became associated with Islam in the popular imagination. Many of these theories involve the Ottomans. For several centuries, the Ottoman Empire was the world's preeminent Muslim nation, and not coincidentally, it was such during the era when many countries were adopting national flags for the first time. In 1844, the Ottoman Empire adopted a rather iconic flag featuring a crescent and a 5-pointed star, potentially taking this from crescent-shaped finials used in mosque architecture. Due to the prestige of the Ottomans, this flag ended up being highly influential, and so elements from this flag would end up on the flags of many other Islamic nations across the world. This brings us nicely onto our next subject, Egypt. Judging from its in-game portrayal, the Egyptian tag is intended to represent an anachronistically early Egypt. This ahistorical construction is further compounded by the fact the in-game flag has been taken directly from the flag adopted by the Kingdom of Egypt in 1922. This flag depicts a white crescent and 3 5-pointed stars on a green field. In this particular instance, the 3 stars were likely intended to symbolise the 3 realms that supposedly made up the kingdom, those being Egypt, Nubia, and Sudan. This threefold imagery was also inherited from earlier flags used by Muhammad Ali. An incredibly ambitious man, he almost certainly chose this flag to demonstrate his imperial ambitions and to declare himself a rival to the Ottomans. Additionally, the 3 stars have also been said to showcase his might, representing the fact that he commanded armies on 3 continents. Although there are actually several important cities which bear the name Tripoli, is definitely intended to represent the Libyan Tripoli, and so it can be argued that the first real-life nation to correspond to this tag was Ottoman Tripolitania, with the rule of the Ottoman Empire over parts of Libya officially beginning in 1551. The Ottoman rule over this area lasted until it was ceded to Italy in 1912, and for most of this time it was organised as an eyalet under the rule of a pasha, that is, it was a top-level administrative division under the rule of an appointed governor. While the first pasha of Ottoman Tripolitania was officially appointed in 1551, the game expands the definition of Tripoli to allow it to start appearing from 1508. This early variation instead represents the naval ambitions of the Barbarossa brothers after they had seized the now Tunisian island of Djerba to serve as their base of operations in the Western Mediterranean. The flag chosen to represent Tripoli in EU4 appears to have been taken directly from an old flag used to represent the city. This flag had 7 stripes and is described at least as early as 1893. The next formable tag, Algiers, is similar to Tripoli in many ways. They were both North African states that were a part of the Ottoman Empire for most of their unified history. They are both forerunners of present-day nations occupying the same area and which share the same capital city. Most importantly, from our perspective at least, they both take their in-game flags from ones they used in real life during their period under Ottoman rule. Ottoman Algeria, also known as the Regency of Algiers amongst many other names, lasted from its establishment in 1515 until its conquest by France in 1830. The flag used in-game, a banner of 5 horizontal stripes alternating red and yellow, was known to have flown over Algiers as the standard used by the land forces of the territory. This report was corroborated after the French conquest of Algeria, as many regimental flags were captured as trophies by the invading army. While these flags do differ in terms of the number, the sole use of red and yellow horizontal stripes remained consistent across all captured banners. I assure you, your eyes do not deceive you. The next flag really is just a plain green rectangle. This is the flag used by the Sokoto Caliphate, a Muslim nation of West Africa that historically came into being in 1804, and, at the moment, the only formable nation of sub-Saharan Africa in EU4. I ought to clarify the name of this historical state. I believe it did not refer to itself as the Sokoto Caliphate, with that instead being a name of convenience coined by historians. This name arose from its longest-lasting capital, the city of Sokoto, and the fact that its rulers took as their title Commander of the Faithful, the same style traditionally used by other caliphs. The in-game flag of Sokoto is taken directly from the flag used by the real-life caliphate, and in fact this flag is still in use by its continuation, the Sokoto Sultanate Council, one of Nigeria's many traditional states. As I've mentioned before, the colour green is especially prominent in Islam, as it is said to have been the Prophet's favourite colour, and it symbolises paradise. Islam also has a strong tradition of aniconism, which helps to explain the plain design of this flag. It may also be a conscious throwback to some of the earliest caliphal dynasties, as these also tended to use plain flags of a single colour. Due to its simplicity, there have been a number of flags similar to this one throughout history, and given the importance of the colour green, it should be no surprise that these nations typically have Islamic heritage as well. The first example to spring to my mind is the flag used by Libya until fairly recently. A more relevant example is the small kingdom of 𝘠𝘬𝘠𝘭𝘥, located in southwestern Sulawesi. This small realm was founded long before 1444, and in EU4 has a near identical flag to that of Sokoto, with only the slightest of difference in shade. The final two flags of this episode mark my first foray into the pre-Columbian New World. However, I am very sad to say that I haven't had any luck with the Mayan flag. I hate to be unable to reach a satisfactory conclusion, but on the other hand, I do feel that if I try to reach for a conclusion, I would just be grasping at straws. While I have done some research into various Mayan symbols, I haven't been able to find anything which even looks remotely familiar, but I also admit I could easily have overlooked something, so if you know anything about this flag, then please get in touch because I would love to know. While I haven't been able to identify the origins of the flag, I am at least confident that this tag is intended to represent a re-established League of Mayapan. This was a confederation of Maya cities located on the Yucatan Peninsula. While the League was the dominant power in the region for over 4 centuries, shortly before the beginning of EU4 it had disintegrated, and so this tag exists to afford the player the opportunity to restore this historical polity. In my personal interpretation of this flag, I would suggest that it could be a representation of a cenote. The Yucatan Peninsula is devoid of rivers, and so the major water source for Yucatec Mayan cities were these naturally occurring wells scattered across the peninsula. These were extremely important to every member of the League of Mayapan, and hence why I interpret their flag to include one. Thankfully, I feel much more confident about the last of this episode's flags, especially compared to the Maya. This is the flag of the Inca Empire. The Inca refer to their own state as Tawantinsuyu, which can be approximately translated as the Four Corners in reference to the 4 regions, or Suyu, which made up the state and met at its political and religious centre in the capital of Cuzco. The word Inca actually means ruler in Quechua, and originally only referred to the ruling class, who made up only a small percentage of the total population. However, after the Spanish conquest, the term was expanded to refer to every subject of the empire, and so I will refer to them as the Inca as well, for ease of understanding. Returning to the task at hand, the Inca Empire never really had anything analogous to a national flag, and so the one used in-game has been created by the developers using existing symbols. This flag shows an anthropomorphized sun on an azure field. This sun is Inti, the Incan god of the sun, and moreover, the mythological ancestor of the imperial family. The 𝘂𝘳 Inca, that is, the emperor, ruled as the divine son of the sun, and so attempts were made to spread the cult of Inti across the entire empire. While the Inca did not have a national flag, there was a personal banner used to represent the 𝘂𝘳 Inca, known from eyewitness accounts from the Spanish conquistadors. This banner showed a tasseled rainbow suspended between 2 serpents. The reason why this is not used for the Inca in EU4 is because it is already in use by another state, the Kingdom of Cuzco, which was the immediate predecessor to the Inca. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. Once again, many apologies about the Maya flag. I'm still not entirely happy with that one. I have to admit, I am quite glad to have finally covered the rest of the flags of the Formable nations. My aim is to create a master post somewhere, likely on Reddit, to link to all of the Formable nations I've covered in order to allow for easier navigation. I'm certainly not finished with my series on the flags of Europa Universalis IV. However, there won't be an episode next week as it is my birthday week, and I would like to take a short break before beginning on the next category. Speaking of which, the next category are those areas which have been specifically requested by viewers. If you've enjoyed this video, then please consider leaving a like, sharing it to get the word out there, and possibly even subscribing if you'd like to keep up with this series. Thank you for watching the video again, and also a big thank you to all of you again, as all of the support I've received over the past week has been fantastic. So, thank you all so much. Ciao!